There is an invisible boundary line embedded in every human interaction, every conversation, and every relationship. It is the exact micro-moment where interpersonal value peaks. It is the absolute zenith of connection, attention, and mutual intrigue. But there is a secondary rule attached to this peak. The moment it is reached, it immediately begins to decay. Most people cross this boundary entirely unawares. Because the human brain is hardwired to chase comfort and validation, our natural instinct when an interaction feels good is to linger. We stay in the room, we stretch the conversation, we extend the date. We remain in the relationship long after the internal resonance has dried up, hoping to squeeze out a few more drops of emotional security. We call this loyalty. We call it commitment. But in the cold calculus of social physics, it is something else entirely. It is the systematic dilution of your own presence. When you stay long enough to watch the energy in a room naturally expire, you are voluntarily flooding the behavioral market. You are shifting from a scarce resource into background noise. The most powerful dynamic shift in human psychology does not belong to the person who fights to keep the connection alive. It belongs entirely to the individual who knows exactly how to exit. The person who understands the subtle, asymmetric gravity of being the one who leaves first. To understand why leaving first commands such immense psychological leverage, we must examine the economy of human attention. The human brain does not assign value to things that are limitlessly accessible. We are baseline coded to ignore what is guaranteed and obsess over what is restricted. When you make yourself infinitely available, when you are always the last one to hang up, the one who lingers at the door waiting for a final goodbye, or the partner who refuses to walk away when boundaries are crossed, you send a subconscious signal to the other person's mind. You are signaling an internal deficit. Without speaking a word, your hyper-availability whispers a diagnostic truth. I have nowhere better to be. My time possesses less intrinsic value than yours. The moment the other person's brain registers this, the dynamic permanently tilts. They no longer need to expend cognitive energy to track you because you are stationary. You have anchored yourself to their timeline. But when you choose to exit an interaction while the energy is still high, you instantly create an attention deficit. By removing your presence before it has a chance to naturally spoil, you freeze your memory of you at its absolute premium. You force the market to adjust to your sudden scarcity. In cognitive psychology, the Zeigarnik effect states that the human mind remembers uncompleted or interrupted tasks much more vividly than those that have been fully completed. When a story ends cleanly, with every loose end neatly tied up, your brain files it away. The cognitive energy spent on it drops to zero. But when a story is abruptly fractured, when an interaction is cut off mid-momentum, the brain experiences an unresolved loop. It views the interruption as a problem that must be solved. It demands closure. This is the mechanical engine behind why you cannot forget certain people. The individuals who stayed, who over-explained, who begged for your understanding, they gave you total closure. They allowed your brain to cleanly archive them and move on. But the person who walked away first, they left a massive, gaping cavity in your cognitive timeline. By being the one who leaves first, you trigger this exact psychological glitch. Because you did not stay long enough to let the relationship run out of gas, they are left sitting in the quiet aftermath, forced to expend immense amounts of mental currency trying to decode your departure. They are left asking the most dangerous question in social psychology. Why wasn't this room enough to keep them here? Every relationship is a negotiation of emotional gravity. The person who reacts the most, who moves the most, and who tries the hardest to maintain the status quo is fundamentally the subordinate in the dynamic. They are operating from a defensive posture. When you notice a connection beginning to fray, your ego will scream at you to react. It will command you to pick up the phone, to demand explanations, or to stage a dramatic confrontation to convince them of your worth. But a reaction is an acknowledgement of impact. When you react heavily, you show them the precise location of your strings. The subtle power of leaving first lies in its absolute non-reaction. Walking away first is not an act of loud defiance, it is a clinical observation. It is the quiet recognition that the environment no longer satisfies your baseline criteria, followed by an immediate, frictionless reallocation of your presence. You do not stay to argue the terms of your departure. This creates an agonizing asymmetry for the person left behind. They expect a struggle. They expect you to fight for your space in their life because that fight validates their ego. When you choose to step out of the frame instead, you completely deny them that validation. You leave them holding an empty script. Let us be entirely transparent. This is not a strategy of emotional manipulation. This is not about playing superficial games, counting text response times, or artificially ghosting people to elicit a reaction. True power cannot be faked through theatrical avoidance. If you are leaving first simply to trick someone into chasing you, your internal gravity is still entirely tethered to them. The protocol of leaving first requires a total internal exemption from the need for external consensus. It means mastering the art of the clean cut. It means that when you sense a friendship has evolved past its shared frequency, you stop forcing the contact. When you realize a professional environment requires you to compromise your baseline value, you stop pitching. When you see that a partner looks at you with high availability rather than high respect, you close the ledger. You do this not out of anger. Anger is a high-energy attachment. You leave out of pure analytical clarity. You realize that your presence is a premium currency, and you refuse to spend it in rooms where the exchange rate is systematically stacked against you. Ultimately, the rule of human behavior is this: people do not remember what you did for them nearly as much as they remember how you managed your own exit. When you stay too long, when you linger until the relationship dissolves into resentment or until the conversation dries up into awkward compliance, you overwrite all the beauty that came before it. You allow the decay to become the final chapter of your story. But when you possess the rare, unshakable discipline to be the one who leaves first, you preserve the architecture of your worth. You walk away with your internal baseline entirely intact. You leave the room wanting more of you, not because you manipulated them into it, but because you respected your own time enough to never let it become a burden. Stop rescuing the silence in rooms that are ready to let you go. Stop offering endless extensions to people who have already stopped investing in the connection. Learn the quiet authority of the exit. Turn around, step out of the frame, and let the room breathe in your absence. Because sometimes the most profound declaration of your value isn't found in what you say when you're standing in the room. It's found in the quiet, permanent weight of the space you leave behind.